Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sergent Charles Poirier, and I'm the spokesperson for the Integrated Safety and Security Group. Le français suivra dans quelques instants. To begin, I would like to acknowledge that the summit took place on the traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy nations of the Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, and the Stoney Nakoda nations comprised of the Bearspaw, Chiniki, and Goodstoney First Nation, and the Tsuut'ina First Nation. We also acknowledge the Otipemisiwak Métis people and government, District 5 and 6, who reside on this territory, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. Donc, bon après-midi, je suis le sergent Charles Poirier, porte-parole du groupe intégré de la sécurité. J'aimerais tout d'abord reconnaître que le sommet a eu lieu sur le territoire traditionnel de la Confédération des Pieds Noirs, soit les nations Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, des nations Stoney Nakoda, soit les nations Bearspaw, Chiniki et Goodstoney, ainsi que la nation Tsuut'ina. Nous reconnaissons également le peuple et le gouvernement métis Otipemisiwak, districts 5 et 6, présents sur ce territoire, ainsi que toutes les personnes qui vivent dans la région du traité numéro 7, dans le sud de l'Alberta. I would like to take a moment to thank the news agency, both here and joining us online, for their important role in echoing accurate, timely information relating to public safety and security surrounding the G7 summit. J'aimerais prendre un instant pour remercier les organes de presse ici présents, en personne ou en ligne, pour le rôle capital qu'ils ont joué dans la diffusion, en temps opportun, d'informations claires et précises concernant la sécurité publique relativement au sommet du G7. I would like to introduce today Chief Superintendent David Hall, the RCMP ISSG Event Security Director. He is joined by Superintendent Joe Brar, Event Security Director for the Calgary Police Service, Deputy Chief Greg Medley with the Alberta Sheriffs, Superintendent Brian Sundberg with Alberta Forestry and Parks Crownland Enforcement Branch, and Brigadier General Wade Rutland, Commander, Joint Task Force Cadence. J'aimerais vous présenter nos interlocuteurs aujourd'hui, à savoir le surintendant principal David Hall, directeur de la sécurité de l'événement relevant du GIS de la GRC. À ses côtés se trouve le surintendant Joe Brar, directeur de la sécurité de l'événement relevant du service de police de Calgary. Le chef adjoint Greg Miller, des shérifs de l'Alberta. Le surintendant Brian Sundberg, de la Direction générale de l'application de la loi au sein du ministère de la Foresterie et des Parcs de l'Alberta. Et enfin, le brigadier général Wade Rutland, commandant de la force opérationnelle mixte Cadence. J'inviterai maintenant le surintendant principal David Hall. I would like to introduce and invite Chief Superintendent David Hall to address and say a few words. Sir.
Thanks. Yeah, good afternoon. So thank you for being here this afternoon, and I'd just like to say that the RCMP-led Integrated Safety and Security Group, or ISSG, has concluded a complex operation focused on ensuring safety, managing risk, and upholding security. The G7 Summit was a global event which required meticulous planning and steadfast professionalism across all levels of government and within our own organizations. The ISSG united the RCMP, the Calgary Police Service, Alberta Sheriff's Branch, Alberta Conservation Officers, and the Canadian Armed Forces. And I'm grateful for these partnerships and proud of the dedication shown by every member of the group. The ISSG is pleased to share that between June 14th and 18th, there were 0 arrests and tickets issued related to the summit or to the G7 designated demonstration zones, where those choosing to express themselves largely conducted themselves in the lawful, peaceful, and safe manner that we hope to see. The ISSG thanks local residents and businesses for their cooperation, patience, and understanding. Their support in giving officers the space required to ensure operational integrity at key summit venues was essential to keeping everyone safe. The success of this complex operation would not be possible without the support of residents and our partners. And lastly, I would like to thank the dedicated planners and deployed personnel from all of our partner agencies who work tirelessly, often out of public view, to ensure the safety of this event and the impacted communities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I will now repeat this in French. Le groupe intégré de la sécurité, dirigé par la GRC, a coordonné une opération complexe visant à assurer la sûreté, à gérer les risques et à maintenir la sécurité. Le sommet du G7 était un événement mondial qui nécessitait une planification méticuleuse et un professionnalisme inébranlable à tous les paliers du gouvernement et au sein de notre propre organisation. Le GIS a réuni la GRC, le service de police de Calgary, les shérifs de l'Alberta, les agents de conservation de l'Alberta, pardonnez-moi, et les forces armées canadiennes. Je suis reconnaissant de ces partenariats et fier du dévouement dont ont fait preuve tous les membres de ce groupe. Le GIS a le plaisir d'annoncer qu'entre le 14 et le 18 juin, il n'y a eu aucune arrestation ni contravention dans les zones de manifestation désignées pour le sommet du G7, où les personnes qui ont choisi de s'exprimer se sont comportées de manière légale, pacifique et sécuritaire, comme nous l'espérions. Le GIS remercie les résidents et les entreprises locales pour leur coopération, leur patience et leur compréhension. Le soutien qu'ils ont apporté, en offrant l'espace nécessaire pour garantir l'intégrité opérationnelle des sites clés du sommet, a été essentiel pour assurer la sécurité de tous. Le succès de cette opération complexe n'aurait pas été possible sans le soutien des résidents et de nos partenaires. We'll now go into question and answer. Nous allons passer aux questions-réponses. The way we're going to do this is I'm going to ask you to please state your name and your media outlet. We're going to take questions from the room first, and then we'll go online if there's anyone who has questions online. Alors, on va aller en premier dans les questions pendant la salle. Votre nom et l'agence média que vous représentez, et ensuite, on ira en ligne.
We can start?
Please, sir.
Okay. Bill Graveland from Canadian Press. This is for Superintendent Hall. Can you tell us anything more about the plane that was forced down by the jets?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. So as we'd indicated leading up to the summit, one of our security measures was to implement a restricted airspace zone around Kananaskis. As part of that, NAV Canada, Transport Canada, they issue what's referred to as a notice to airmen publicizing that restriction to pilots. And in this case, unfortunately, a private aircraft came into the airspace. And as a result of that, the Royal Canadian Air Force and our NORAD partners responded in a manner to enforce and secure that airspace. They did so following established protocols, and thankfully we were able to have that pilot safely exit the controlled airspace, land, and then an investigation started into exactly what happened there.
So you don't know if there's going to be charges laid?
At this time, the RCMP has not laid charges, and some of our partner agencies are looking at applicable regulatory offenses. And so, but at this time, it's not my understanding that any charges have been laid at this time.
Any other question? Please go ahead,
okay.
please.
Any thoughts on what this pilot might have been thinking when he looks up and sees a couple of jets flying next to him?
I'm not. I equate it to if you're driving down a highway and high speed something happens in front of you, and how you might react to that. And I'm sure that pilot is probably thinking something along those lines.
Well, that was like the most exciting thing happened from the security perspective from what we've seen on the outside.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would describe it as exciting for us. Certainly a concern, and again, I think it's just the professionalism of our partners with the Air Force that was able to be managed safely and come to a conclusion where everyone's safe at the end of that.
He wasn't taken into custody.
He's not in custody at this time.
Next question? Anyone?
When you talk about that being sort of the one incident that we're talking about, was there an expectation that there would be more incidents than we saw or more arrests?
Well, I'd say is, and I think I can speak on behalf of all of our agencies, is part of our planning is based on risk and threat and what we perceive to be the issues that we think we may have to respond to or deal with. And so at the end, just because nothing seems to have happened, and I think that it's two things. It speaks to the fact that our plans are robust. Our numerous interactions in community town halls through the media to try to communicate our plans and what we hope to see from the public. I think those things worked, and so it's difficult to look today at what did not happen and compare that to what we were planning for, because you just never know. And unfortunately, if something bad had happened, we'd be having a different conversation today.
Any other question in the room? Then we'll go online. So if you have a question online, you need to press *1. Operator, do we have a question?
Your first question comes from the line of Scott Strazer from Calgary Herald. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. My first question was already asked about that plane that entered the secure airspace, but I did want to ask if will we eventually know what the price tag for security-related costs will be?
Yes. So at some point, as we, it's important to remember we're not finished. So we have a lot of work to do to demobilize our security posture. All of our respective organizations need to kind of wind down their operations, and at some point we will tally all those costs, and those will be made publicly available.
Thank you, sir. Next question online.
Okay, thank you.
And your next question comes from the line of Sandra Stanley from Brooks Bulletin. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you. Most of my questions have been answered and asked regarding the plane. However, I do have a couple of more questions about the plane that was escorted out of the area. Can you tell us where the plane originated from, what type it was, and where it was escorted to, please?
I don't have all of that information at hand, but I believe the plane was escorted to Brooks, where it was met by the RCMP.
Do you have
Okay, so if there are charges... I'm sorry?
No, please go ahead with your follow-up question.
I apologize. If there are charges laid, would those charges then be in a federal court, or would they be in Brooks because they came here, or would they be more military court? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, so it's a good question, and what I'd say is right now you have several different agencies looking at what happened. So from a criminal investigative standpoint, that is the RCMP that is managing that investigation. So if criminal charges were to be laid, and at this point it's premature to say whether that's the case or not, that would be done by the RCMP. However, there are other regulatory offenses which may be more appropriate to the circumstance at the conclusion of an investigation, and those would be managed by other agencies such as Transportation Canada.
Any follow-up question?
Is the public going to find out if charges are going to be laid in this case?
If criminal charges are laid, then that information becomes public.
Thank you. We'll now go to our next question. Operator, next question, please.
Your next question comes from the line of Joel Dryden from CBC. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Just a question about wildlife. How many incidents were involving bears, and were there any bear relocations where officers needed to use traps or other tools?
We had roughly about 200 incidences with wildlife in general that we responded to. About half of those were to both grizzly bear and black bear reports. I'm very happy to say that all of those were minor in nature, and as a result, we were able to take minimal action to move the risk away for both the wildlife and the bears, and there were no relocations or no significant efforts needed to manage those incidents.
And then I'm just curious about the bear dogs. Can you kind of outline how those were deployed and whether they prevented any adverse interactions?
So the bear dog, we used a private bear dog contractor. That's an individual who has significant wildlife management experience with the Alberta government. They were embedded with our wildlife mitigation and response teams. So they were integral to a large portion of our responses. And the bear dogs are another tool that we use. They're a best practices type tool and used to conduct adversive conditioning. And in the case of the bear dogs, yeah, we use them quite regularly. The majority of work they did were as a deterrent and a noise deterrent as part of that adversive conditioning process.
All right, I've been told we've got one more question online.
Thank you. Your next question comes from the line of Acton Clarkin from CBC. Please go ahead.
Hi there. This is just a point of clarification about the arrests. I just want to make sure, when you say zero arrests, do you mean both in all of the protest zones and in the controlled access zone as well?
I'll speak on behalf of the RCMP areas of jurisdiction and the controlled access zone. We didn't have to arrest anybody. There were instances where we had to escort people who were not accredited to be in the controlled access zone, and we escorted them out of the access zone until they could seek proper accreditation, but no arrests. And Superintendent Barr.
Thank you for the questions, and for clarity, I can confirm that there was no arrests related to protests or in the dedicated demonstration zones. However, I was made aware prior to us coming down that there was an arrest in the vicinity of downtown, which may, we're still seeking clarification on that, how that was related to G7, but that's, I can say that there's no arrests in relation to demonstrations or the demonstration zones.
And just so that one arrest near the demonstration zone, could that be classified as an arrest related to G7 security?
So no, not related to G7 security. It happened in the vicinity of most of the G7 activities downtown, so we're still looking into if there was any connection directly to G7, but it was minor. The offense itself was minor in nature.
I understand we have no other questions online. Do we have other questions in the room?
Please go first.
Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself last time. Alyssa Carpenter, Global News. I'm just wondering if you can give me a sense of sort of the scope of security throughout the last couple of weeks in terms of how many officers, other personnel do we have, equipment, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so today I'm not going to get into the specifics of the number of officers. That information will be available later. But as we've always said, it's a massive security operation. And so, I just say, if you look across the region, we have security operations here in the city in terms of arrivals and departures of the world leaders and the security that comes with that. You have delegations staying in the city, and we're protecting those folks. We are supporting the Stoney Nakoda Nation in terms of security on their reserve. Stoney Nakoda Resort and Casino, if you were out in the area, you would see a large security hub there where we're transiting people in and out of the area. Numerous checkpoints, numerous folks in the wilderness. On behalf of the partners, they're bringing in a large number of people and equipment. And so it's not just what you see on the ground, it's the logistics and the HR support and the administration that goes behind making sure we have the right equipment. All of these things that, they just don't exist for our agencies, generally speaking, on a day-to-day basis. And we've had to build that team here in Alberta to successfully pull off the operation that we did.
You mentioned a couple of weeks ago how much planning went into this. When looking through everything you know now, were there any surprises?
Like, honestly, I'll say I think I'm surprised that we didn't see more demonstration activity. But again, I think that really comes down to the strength of our plans and the strength of our sort of public interactions and our ability to reach the communities that are impacted by the event. And you know, in the Kananaskis region, we were literally going door to door to talk to residents and talk about their concerns. And I think in the end, that really paid off for us. But the risks and threats that that we were planning for, they all still exist. And so I just say it's, you know, through our plans, we were able to make sure those risks and threats didn't come to fruition. But if they did, we were prepared for it. I don't know if you want to comment on the city.
Yeah, and I said, I think to build on what Chief Superintendent Hall says is we're having a conversation about what did take place. The planning actually accounts for what could take place, and I think the plans were very robust, and they put us in a situation that we were able to deal with any problem should it occur.
23 years ago, some of us unfortunately were still doing this. And I'm just wondering what has changed. There was so many demonstrations in 2002, and there was just a drop in the bucket this time.
So if you look at, so Sunday was a day that we saw the most amount of demonstrations. Although it was one area that most people congregated to, they had lots of different causes. We saw up to 17 different protest groups, and there's several other smaller ones as well. I think people are still concerned about the same types of issues, and the numbers we're seeing, you know, that's something we would need to look into. But I would say that there's other ways of demonstrating now as well rather than just showing up in person. You know, technology allows people from all parts of the world to reach in and express their views and opinions. And so I think it's just changing the environment, to be honest with you.
Any other questions in the room? We still have one question online.
And your next question in the line is from Joel Sarden from CBC. Please go ahead.
Thanks for taking another one. Can you tell us about the equipment used for the wildlife monitoring and sort of the purpose for that equipment?
The equipment that we used is equipment that we use every day between Conservation Officer Service and the Fish and Wildlife Service to manage and monitor wildlife. So we brought in, as with any other component here, the tools that we thought were necessary in order to manage that wildlife. We started off with a heavy educational component and trained as many of the security partners as we could in bear awareness and bear spray training to help protect both the wildlife and the staff from those interactions. We use primarily, we would respond to areas on foot, to areas where wildlife were concerned or wildlife complaints were received, and use noise-making activities. And we had noisemakers, we had bear scare devices like screamers and banger shells. We had chalk balls and other physical deterrents we could use. We were prepared to immobilize wildlife and trap wildlife as necessary. So it was a wide portfolio of what we use, but it's everyday technology that our respective agencies use.
Any follow-up question?
Yeah, one more if you don't mind. Can you give examples of what the reports or incidents entailed? So would that be like just seeing a bear or wildlife, or what would warrant a response?
We certainly received a number of just wildlife sightings along the trail systems. We would gauge every report as it came in, and generally the key to there is if those wildlife reporting specifically with the bears, if they were in and around the facilities where they posed a risk. If they were farther out within the wilderness, that's the natural habitat of the wildlife. We let them be, and a significant portion of our complaints were ungulates on the roads roadside, so fairly standard stuff, what you see out in Kananaskis country, and we would just move the wildlife off the road and allow for free movement of traffic.
Any other question before we conclude? Well, thank you very much for attending. This is all for today. Merci beaucoup. Bonne journée.